A heavy silence fell over the celestial assembly chamber. For the first time in 1,000 years, the mighty stellar Concord rulers of the galaxy had no idea what to do. High Arbiter Zorvel scanned the chamber, seeing fear on the faces of dozens of species, scaled, metallic, crystalline, even gaseous. For centuries they had ruled with absolute confidence, but today, fear ruled them. Vorkal, a warrior of immense pride, slammed his fist on the glowing council table. His voice was a snarl. "Humanity threatens us with war. We cannot surrender to them. If we yield now, we lose all authority." Ambassador Crayon, a reptilian diplomat, stepped forward. His voice was calm, almost too calm, but fire burned in his eyes. "We already lost our authority," he said, his words cutting through the noise. "The moment a Concord patrol murdered a Terran humanitarian crew, the galaxy judged us, not them." Gasps rippled through the chamber. Vorkal hissed, his fury palpable. "Do not lecture me, lizard. The humans are overreacting." Crane didn't back down. "You still think this is about emotion? This is about survival." He pointed at the hologram floating above the table. It showed the wreckage of the Terran medical ship, fragments of life-saving equipment, and the hull of the vessel drifting in cold, unforgiving space. "They gave us a choice," Crane continued, his voice resonating with grim certainty. "We answered with the one crime the galaxy never forgives." The chamber erupted into chaos, shouts and arguments drowning out all reason. Zorvel's eyes were fixed on the countdown timer burning on the wall. 72 hours, already down to 68. And humanity hadn't moved a single warship. That fact alone terrified him more than anything. Deep beneath the Terran capital, in the secure heart of the defense nexus, the air buzzed with controlled intensity. Admiral Jorah Malik stood before a massive strategic holodisplay, the same countdown glowing on the main screen. 68 hours, 14 minutes and 9 seconds. A young lieutenant approached, her steps precise. "Admiral, our allies are requesting instructions." Malik turned, his expression unreadable. "Allies?" 12 independent civilizations, sir. All of them." On the map, their icons pulsed with light. Species that had long feared the Concord's dominance now looked to humanity with hope. "Tell them," Malik said, his voice firm and unwavering, "to stand down." The lieutenant hesitated, confused. "All of them, sir?" Malik gave a single decisive nod. "Yes, this is our responsibility." Just then, President Alara Monroe stepped into the room, her presence commanding immediate attention. "Status report, Admiral?" Malik straightened, his posture rigid. "The Concord is in full-blown panic mode, Madam President, but our intelligence suggests they won't hand over the guilty officers." Monroe's expression hardened. "Then prepare for escalation." "Yes, ma'am." She took a deep breath, her gaze sweeping across the room. "We do this smart. Humanity will not start a war, but we will end the corruption that was about to cause one." Back in the Celestial Assembly Chamber, the Concord was unraveling. "Why aren't our fleets moving?" shouted Counselor Tirzan, his voice cracking with desperation. A trembling technician answered, "Our fuel reserves. They rely on trade with species now aligned with the humans." "Then increase production," another counselor yelled, "and we can't. Half of our processing stations are shutting down due to critical resource shortages." Panic spread like a virus. Vorkal slammed his fist on the table again, a desperate, futile gesture. "We are the conquered. We will assemble every ship we have and crush the humans." Crane stared at him, Not with anger, but with pity, like one might look at a dying animal thrashing in its final moments. You still don't understand. He gestured to a new screen showing human defenses. The massive orbital rings around Earth, newly built shipyards churning out vessels at an impossible rate, and the profiles of the 310 warships that had recently sent a Concorde fleet retreating in humiliation. Humans do not bluff. And neither do I, Vorkal roared. But this time, nobody stood with him. The support he once commanded had evaporated. At hour 41 of the countdown, the first strike happened, and not a single weapon was fired. Across the Concorde's capital world, the lights flickered. Holograms glitched and died. Security doors froze shut. Entire command centers went dark, their systems suddenly offline. What? What is happening? Zorvel shouted into the darkness. Then a calm human voice echoed from every speaker in the chamber, seemingly from the air itself. Attention, Stellar Concorde. Your primary communication network has been disabled. Your military databases have been copied. Your fleet command systems are now under Terran quarantine protocol. The lights snapped back on. In the center of the chamber stood a hologram, a human figure, Commander Lyra Vance, wearing her sleek combat exosuit, its blue lines pulsing with energy. Her arms were folded. Her expression was cold, controlled, and utterly deadly. It wasn't difficult, she said, her tone polite, almost conversational. Your central security hasn't been updated in 3 centuries. Vorkal lunged forward, his face a mask of rage. How dare you violate our sanctum? This is an act of war. Lyra tilted her head slightly, unimpressed. No. You began this when you killed unarmed medics. A profound hush fell over the room. You now have 31 hours left, she continued, her voice echoing in the sudden silence. Deliver the officers responsible for their deaths, or your fleets will remain offline. Permanently. Her hologram vanished, leaving behind a silence heavier than gravity. The panic that erupted was immediate and absolute. This is impossible, one counselor screamed. They hacked our entire command grid, another wailed. We cannot fight them. They can shut down our fleets at will. Zorvel whispered the unthinkable truth. We are outmatched. Vorkal thrashed against his new reality. No! No! We will not bow to these primitives. Crane turned slowly, his voice now as cold as frost. They are not primitives. He leaned close to Vorkal, his eyes boring into him. They are survivors. He gestured around the collapsing chamber. Look at what is happening. Humans haven't fired a single shot. They haven't entered our space. They haven't harmed a single one of our civilians, and still, your entire empire is collapsing from within. For the first time, Vorkal hesitated, just for a moment. But in that moment, everyone saw his confidence crack. Everyone saw his fear. At hour 55, a Terran carrier group emerged at the very border of Concorde space. They held their formation, a line of steel and light, but did not cross the boundary. Admiral Malik's voice broadcast across every star system on every open channel. To all watching, humanity seeks justice, not conquest. But if justice is denied, we will act. Billions listened. The Concorde trembled. Hour 70. Only 2 hours left. The Concorde chamber was dead silent. High Arbiter Zorvel stood, his face etched with defeat. We must surrender the officers. Vorkal's eyes blazed with hatred. If we do this, if we do not, Zorvel interrupted, his voice ringing with newfound authority. The humans will dismantle everything we have built. Not through war, but through alliances, truth, and technology they command and we do not. A vote began. The room held its breath. The result was nearly unanimous. The motion passed. Vorkal roared like a wounded beast as guards, finally acting on the council's will, moved to restrain him. The officers responsible for the massacre were brought forward in stasis cuffs, terrified, defeated, and silent. In deep space, the Terran dreadnought, the Resolute, hovered like a shadow of judgment. A lone Concorde shuttle approached. Inside were the officers, their arrogance replaced by stark terror. Admiral Malik himself stood on the bridge to receive the transmission. His words were not of vengeance, but of process. "They will stand trial," he said to the Concorde envoy. "They will face justice, and the galaxy will witness fairness. No threats, no cruelty, just justice." The officers were taken into Terran custody. The Concorde sent no further messages. Their silence was their surrender. 1 week later, hundreds of species tuned into the trial broadcast from Earth. They watched as humanity judged the attackers with absolute transparency. There was no torture, no showmanship, no vengeance, only the impartial application of law. From his home world, Ambassador Crayon watched the transmission quietly. "They mocked them," he whispered to himself. "They belittled them. They tried to control them." He exhaled slowly, a long, weary sigh. And now, humanity leads the galaxy without ever lifting a weapon. In the dark between the stars, humanity rebuilt. They grew stronger, more united, not through conquest but through resilience, through their steadfast refusal to kneel. And the galaxy finally understood one unshakable truth. You can pressure humans, you can threaten them, but you can never ever break them. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more tales from across the galaxy. See you next time.